The candidates running for Rockwall Independent School District Place 3 are here in the bunker today for some straight talk in hopes of winning the vote of Rockwall County conservatives. I'm Bunker Bob Steinhagen, and this is a special edition of The Bunker Bob Show. Welcome, conservatives, to this special edition of the Bunker Bob Show, and I know that you will be glad you took the time to hear what the candidates running for our local elections here in Rockwall County have to say. I want to give each candidate the opportunity to put their best foot forward, which is why, as I have always done, the candidates received a copy of the questions before they had to decide to participate. Through the magic of video, we create the illusion that both candidates are in studio at the same time. However, each candidate sat down with me for a one-on-one interview, which is edited together to create the illusion that they're here at the same time. This is why I will ask follow-up questions of one candidate but not the other, and why the candidates do not respond to one another's answers. In fact, the first time either candidate will have heard the answers from their opponent will be after this show has been broadcast. Now, I have never placed time limits on candidates' answers. However, when they go long, and sometimes they do, we will edit it for time. Now, since most candidates are not used to being on camera as they are not professional politicians, in fact, the office for which they are running is actually unpaid positions. So before I begin the interview, I let every candidate know that they can re-answer or restate anything they say, because the purpose of today's show is to allow them to be the best that they can be. So let me introduce the candidates for today's show. So I'm going to start with Linda Duran. Linda is a lifelong resident of Rockwall. Both Linda and all three of her children are graduates of Rockwall High School. Majoring in German and English, she earned a BA with honors from that school in Austin, whose name shall never be mentioned in the bunker. Graduating Phi Beta Kappa as a certified teacher. She specializes in teaching remedial reading. Oh, so you did work with Aggies. That's good. Okay. So Miss Duran then earned her master's from the Permian Basin extension of that school, whose name shall never be mentioned in the bunker, with a degree in counseling and guidance with an emphasis on education. She did all of that with a 4.0 GPA, which explains why she has no place in the Holy Land known to some as College Station. Linda holds professional certificate in counseling from the Texas Education Agency. She's engaged in postmaster's training in special education and sociology, and is certified as a trauma and loss specialist consultant trainer through the National Institute for Trauma and Loss in Children. For 35 years, Ms. Duran has been a teacher and counselor, 23 of those years with RISD. For 10 years, Linda has also been the managing partner for Mitchell Properties. Linda was chosen for the prestigious Leadership for the Texas Association of School Boards program, where she earned the designation of Master Trustee. Linda has served on the Rockwall School Board for 9 years, 3 terms, serving as vice president for 2 terms and president for another 2 terms. She is a member of Our Lady of the Lake Catholic Church, an avid tennis player, camper, and hiker. But most important of all, Linda is a devoted wife, mother, and grandmother. Well, Linda, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, how long you and your husband have been married?
50 years. 50
years. You celebrated this year?
No, actually, we celebrated 51 this year.
51, wow.
Now, I was 5 when I got married.
Obviously, yeah, we get that. We get that. And so, how many grandkids do you have?
6.
6. And are they located in this area?
In Dallas area.
Oh, nice. So you get to see them a lot?
Yes, I do. So, as you can tell, education and what goes on in education is very important to me.
Well, the bigger question is, do you have a master's in spoiling yet?
Oh, I have a PhD in spoiling.
Okay, very good.
And that means pile it higher and deeper.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. So let me introduce Jill Clewis. She is a Rockwall resident, and her daughter Ellie is a sophomore at Rockwall High School, and her son Grant graduated from Rockwall High School in 2014. Grant has since earned his bachelor's degree at the University of Arkansas. Currently, he is enrolled in HVAC school to obtain his HVAC license. Jill was able to serve as homeroom mom as well as library and lunchroom volunteer. She was also the treasurer of her son's hockey league. Hockey in Texas. Now that is unusual.
It was unusual.
Where did they practice? At the Star?
I mean, we drove from Rockwall to Plano to Grapevine to we drove all over. So each year he played on a different team.
Jill, you obtained your bachelor's degree in business and later went back to college and became a registered nurse. For 15 years, Jill served as vice president of finance for a property management company in which she was part owner. She had the privilege of working on multi-million-dollar properties, managing assets and property budgets. Currently, she works as vice president of clinical operations for a physical management company. In this role, she oversees budgets, policies, staff development, marketing, along with growth and development. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Garland.
Okay.
So
you're not, you're pretty local.
Yeah, these are my roots.
Yeah.
I don't like to change a lot, so.
Did you go through public schools in Garland?
So kindergarten through 5th grade, I went to St. Pius X Catholic School.
Okay.
And then my sister had some learning disabilities, so my parents thought it'd be better for us to move to the public schools. So then I switched to Garland Independent School District.
Okay.
Went to Coyle Middle School, and then graduated from Lakeview Centennial. I did graduate early. So one semester I was taking my exams in high school. Literally the next week I was moving into my dorm at Texas Tech. So I started a semester early at Tech.
Oh, man. So you couldn't get into
and
A&M.
You're an Aggie,
that's okay.
So don't hold that against me.
Actually, the joke is it's not that you couldn't get in. It's that you could get into Tech as opposed to having to settle for A&M. That's what everybody always tells me. And
And full disclosure here, I did go to Texas Tech for about 3 years.
Yeah.
And then I came home to work for Southwestern Bell.
Oh, really? Okay.
So during that summer job, they offered me a full-time position and said that they'd pay for the rest of my school. So I thought, well, I'm taking out student loans. Why don't I let them pay for the rest of my school? So I ended up graduating from Amber University. It's a small private school in Garland.
Yeah.
It's more for the working adult. So I got a real good experience from Texas Tech, and then transitioning to that school working with people from Raytheon and people from Texas Instruments. And so you really get corporate America and the vibe for corporate America. So.
All right. Thank you. And I think the first question I'd like to ask both of you is, why are you running for RISD School Board? Jill?
Well, I call 2020 the lost year. So that's what stirred me up and got me involved. It was pretty chaotic. Nothing to take away from the board, because I know that they did their best and probably struggled and had a lot of sleepless nights. But at the end of the day, my daughter didn't really get an education in 2020. So there was a lot of struggle, and it started with them leaving school and the country shutting down. And I get the predicament that the school district was in, so I understood the spring. But over the summer, it would have been nice to have had some more preparation, at least from the school board to the parents. In the middle of the summer, they send out a survey to the parents and ask us, do you want your kid to go to school full-time or virtual? Well, I thought that was the option. You get to go full-time or virtual. A couple of weeks before school starts, sorry parents, we can't meet the capacity, so we're going to do hybrid. Well, that's a disaster if you don't have a teacher sitting there with your kids at home 3 days a week. They become isolated. I don't know if you've ever been around a 15-year-old. I'm sure you have. You have kids.
I've got a 13-year-old, so I'm not quite there yet.
Tired.
Okay.
Some of them are very tired.
Yeah.
So if you're not there, or they're not in an environment that is stimulating their brain, and they're not socializing with friends or walking from class to class, they fall asleep. So that was the problem, is she didn't really get an education. She'd check in on her classes. And towards the end of the semester, she'd try to get caught up. She'd do the remediation for some classes and schoolwork that was behind, and just was a disaster. So had I known in June or July that this was even an option, I did call Dallas Christian Academy. I called a couple of other private schools just to see what are my options? When can I get my student in? What does homeschooling look like? But I thought, well, there is an option to go back to school full time, so let's just stick with Rockwall. I want to make sure she graduates. I love the tradition of having both of my children graduate from Rockwall's high school. I've been here for 20 years. The board has always done a really good job. The teachers are amazing. The parents are very involved. So let's just see. Let's just give them a chance to work this out.
Very good. Linda, what about you? Why are you running for re-election?
That's a good question. And I thought hard on whether to run again. And I prayed hard on it. And it really came down to that our education in our country really is kind of in a crisis right now.
Yes, it is.
And I have a gift for academic remediation. That was my teaching specialty.
Yes, it was. Okay.
My counseling specialty was trauma, loss, and resilience. And then I got training in those things. And you take a gift and training, you come with a talent. And we all know from the Bible what you're supposed to do with your talents, and that's spend them wisely.
Not bury them.
That's right. And so I know it sounds kind of corny, but I felt called at this time that my expertise was needed.
Call at this time meaning what?
To help our district, to help education. We got to get back to normal. We've got to deal with the remediation of some of the academic gaps from this year. And the trauma tsunami is coming. It happened after 9/11. It's happened after hurricanes. And we have to help our community, our kids, yes, our staff too, the parents, all with the emotional trauma that could kick in at any time. And so some of the expertise I have, I can lend and help with that. I've already had a pretty good meeting with the people at STAR Global Commonwealth, and the National Institute for Trauma and Loss is under their umbrella of training.
I see.
And I helped them get their TEA approval for giving continuing education credits for every educator in the state of Texas. I actually did the application for them.
Okay.
Because they didn't know anything about Texas education, and I did.
Okay.
And so they are working very hard. They send out free courses for teachers, counselors, and stuff to help, because it's nonprofit. I mean, they have to pay their bills, but
Sure.
they don't make a whole lot of money.
Right.
And to help schools as we get back into the more normal process of educating our kids.
It's interesting. Your education it has a specialty in this remediation and trauma. Why did you choose that?
Well, and it's real interesting. When I became a counselor, and I told this story at the beginning of the year to the teachers at the YMCA Christian breakfast that they had.
Okay.
About a student that I had. Now, at that time, my twin sister had lost her 2-year-old child.
Oh.
So I helped her through that, just with what little skills I had. And this particular student that I had lost his mother. And he blamed himself. He blamed his father, a man. He blamed the doctors, who were men. And he blamed God, in his mind, a father figure. So he was struggling. Very much. And he came to me one day and he said, Mrs. Duran, I'm going to drop out. You have to sign this paper. That's when they could drop out at 17.
I see.
And I said, no, you're not. He said, yes, I am. I said, no, you're not. I'm not going to sign that paper. And he said, it doesn't matter whether you sign it or not. I can drop out. So I did the professional thing as a counselor. I sat down at my desk and I started crying. And he came over and he's patting me on the back. It's going to be okay, Miss Duran. It's going to be okay. And I said, Joseph, it's not okay. You're mad at all men on earth. You blame them for the death of your mother. You've not dealt with that death. You're abusing drugs and alcohol, and now you're dropping out of school. That's not all right. Well, Bob, 5 years later, 5 years, I'm driving into Chandler taking my kids to tennis. And this real clean cut, flat top kid, said, Miss Duran, don't you recognize me? I'm going, I looked at those sparkling green eyes and I said, Joseph? He said, yes. He said, I asked, how are you doing? He said, well, I got my GED. I said, good. And he said, and I've been to Eastfield. I got an associate's degree in criminal justice. I went, okay.
Wow.
And he was transferring to Sam Houston.
Wow.
And this was 5 years after he left.
Huh.
And he said, you know what, Mrs. Duran? I never forgot you cared enough to cry for me.
Mm.
And I thought, I got to get some skills. And I actually, after that year he left, I thought, I got to get some skills to help these kids. So I worked for Rockwell High School for 23 years, and for 22 of those years, I ran a grief group. And when there's a need, I feel a calling to fill that need. And that's why I'm running.
Wonderful. Wonderful. You know, what do you see as, you know, you've been on the board nine years now. What do you see as the school board's primary role and responsibility?
Well, and people who get on the board have to go to training.
Okay.
And there's some very specific guidelines that the state of Texas has set up, and they're very wise.
Yeah.
They're very wise. And you have to get ethics training every year. Because a board is in governance and oversight, not in management.
Correct. That's your superintendent.
That's your administration. We hire the superintendent, and if we don't like the way they manage it, well, first of all, you speak up and try to get it changed. And second of all, you can always find another superintendent.
That's right.
And because the last thing in the world the school needs is for people to come down and try to micromanage every little thing they do.
Absolutely.
That would be chaos. And I know a lot of people think that they can get on and I'm going to change this, I'm going to change that, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Well, you can, but you got to do it the proper way, or you can be censured by the state of Texas. And there have been many board members in the state of Texas that have been censured because they try to go in and run the schools and micromanage.
And what does censure mean?
Well, you're sort of told, no, bad girl, bad boy.
Okay.
I guess that's what it means.
Right.
Words to that effect.
You're corrected.
You're corrected.
Yes.
And you're told this does not meet the ethical standards that you agreed to.
Gotcha.
And so a brand new board member goes in, and the first thing they have to take this long training over can do and can't do.
Okay.
And then when you go and when you become an officer, you get more training. What you can do and you can't do. And this is through TASB. The Texas Association of School Boards.
Okay.
But it's on the guidelines that the state of Texas and the Texas Education Agency gives us.
I see.
Gives them. So it's
Okay.
they're pretty strict on it, and it is good.
Jill, what about you? The school board's primary role and responsibility?
Well, it is to hold the superintendent accountable.
Okay.
So you hire the superintendent, you work with the superintendent, you set up SMART goals for the superintendent, and if they don't meet them, or he's not working out, or she's not working out, your job as a board of trustee is to fire the superintendent. So that's your main duty. That's your one employee that you oversee. So you have to hold them accountable with, goals that are obtainable, and you can manage them with your time, and that's our job. And so that's my answer to that question.
Very good. Very good. As a school board member, who do you see as your primary constituent, and how do you intend to make sure that you are listening to their concerns? Jill?
I think it's the parents.
Okay.
Obviously, the taxpayers are parents too. So how I would keep myself open to them is I would be present in the classroom. I would love to go visit the schools to see firsthand what's going on. I'm always open to, I have an open door policy where I work. So anybody that has a problem, they come to me. If they have a great suggestion, they come to me. Whether it's good or bad, I want to hear from you. So I would be open to that. But my phone number's blasted out there right now. So if somebody doesn't have my phone number, you can probably find it pretty easy about right now. So if you have a question or concern, or you see something that is troubling you at the schools, or you've uncovered something that doesn't seem right to you, that's what we're here for. We're here to put a stop to that, or investigate that, or, get the full investigation going to figure out what's going on.
Very good. What about you, Linda, your primary constituent?
That's a good question. The community. And that means your students, your staff, your parents, and just your community as a whole. And you listen to not just the loud ones, not just the ones screaming at you, but you listen to your community. You listen to the students.
Your background is in teaching, and so is it fair to say that your primary constituent is the teachers?
No.
Okay.
First and foremost, the welfare students.
No, but that's the welfare. But who is, I guess, the most influential voice? And I realize this is called straight talk. So to say that everyone's voice is equal is not fair.
Well, I guess I understand the teacher point of view.
Sure. Exactly. Yeah,
so
you obviously do.
I understand that.
Yes.
But every decision I make, I think first of all what's ultimately best for the students.
Yeah. Okay. How often? Well, you obviously attend all the
but let
board
me tell
meetings.
You before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before you were on the school board.
That's right.
Yeah.
So when I retired, I knew I still had stuff to give. I'm an extremely high energy person.
Okay.
You probably picked up.
Well, yeah. Looking at your bio, yes.
Yes. But I'm very high energy, and I knew I had more to give. So I worked through most of June. July, were at that time no board meetings. I started going to every board meeting and work session from August on.
Wow.
That's the only way you know stuff. I guess because I'm academic oriented, I do my homework.
Yeah.
You can probably tell that from my
yes, I can.
and
Yes.
stuff like that.
Yes.
I do my homework.
Yep.
I do my homework, and people might disagree with what I end up deciding.
With your conclusions, yeah.
I understand that.
Yep.
I even appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they're not going to work harder. Nobody's going to work harder than I work.
Very good. Jill, how about you? How often do you attend school board meetings, and what have you learned?
I've been to 4 or 5 this year. The last one was 5 hours long. So I was there the whole entire time. We were debating the masks. Or we weren't. I was sitting listening in the audience, but that was the debate on the floor. That action item was voted on that evening, and it's a very hot topic in the community right now.
Yes, it is.
And I'll just go ahead and put it out there that I think masks should be optional at this point. Governor Abbott came out March 3rd. He lifted the mask mandate. Whether that was March 4th, March 3rd, he said that teachers, daycare workers, and the staff could be eligible for the vaccine. So that's helpful. That's changed the game in this, in my mind. So if you are a teacher or worker at the school, if I heard that information on March 3rd, I would have probably stopped what I was doing March 3rd to figure out where I could go get a vaccine if that was important to me. So I am optional masks, optional vaccines. I would never want to mandate that on anyone. But if it was important to me and I felt like that would be something that I would want to do, I would figure out a way to get a vaccine pretty darn quick. So with that being said, I think that you need to allow teachers a little bit of time to get the vaccine. But a couple of weeks down the road, by April, I don't see a reason for masks in schools.
Do you think that the school board is doing a good job representing constituents?
I don't know what information they're receiving because I'm not on their email system. So that night they said that it was roughly 2 to 3 where parents still wanted the masks. I mean, I don't know if everyone that had a concern about the masks being optional spoke up. So it's all about the data. The data.
So,
that you
so they're
receive.
saying 2 out of 3 parents want to see masks continue, but you don't know where they got.
I mean, I guess some of them received emails.
Okay.
Depending on who they're, I don't want to say friends, but who they're comfortable with speaking back and forth with. Maybe they voice concerns to the board. I didn't get a survey as a parent. So they sent a survey out the night before to teachers, staff workers to see how they felt about the masks. I don't know how good that data is either, 24 hours before the school board meeting. It would just be nice as a parent to be more involved in these hot topics send out a survey to us. Ask the parents how we feel. If you really want some good data on how the parents feel about masks or anything else coming up the pipeline, please send us a survey. That's all we want. We just want to have a voice and be heard. That's why I'm here.
So are you saying that if you're on the school board, that would be something that you would...
Absolutely. If it was something that I knew was a hot topic, I would want feedback from the parents. Absolutely.
Just out of curiosity, does the district have access to the emails of parents? I'm guessing that they do.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So it's a relatively easy process. It's just making it happen.
I mean, we get a call when there's inclement weather.
Yeah, okay.
We get a call when school's out for whatever reason. So they have access to us.
Gotcha.
They absolutely do.
Very good. In your view, what are the best attributes of Rockwall schools? Jill?
I'd have to say our teachers and our parents that volunteer all of their time. That's what makes the difference in Rockwall. We've got some great teachers, and they're a little burnt out right now. So we need to make sure that we are supporting them. And I've spoke to a lot of my daughter's teachers, and one of them told me that he was spending 45 minutes taking attendance instead of 5 minutes. So, when you roll out these programs without any training, or with very little training, I won't say without any, but with very little training, it just doesn't work. It's chaotic. It's chaotic for the students. It's chaotic for the parents. It's chaotic for the teachers. There's a huge learning curve. So just be a little more mindful and thoughtful when you're rolling out a new program. And Lord knows they've been underneath a lot of pressure this year. So it's easy to sit over here and judge, and say, I would have done this or I would have done that. You're going through it at the time, and hopefully I'll be able to work with these board members, so I don't want to alienate them, because I know that they volunteer their time and they've spent a lot of time thinking about how to best serve the students in the school system and to try to do what's right. And I really believe that that's what they think that they're doing. They think that they're doing what's right, but at the end of the day, they need to reach out to the parents a little bit more.
Very good. Linda, how about you? How would you answer that?
It's the community. Our Rockwall community is something else, and they always have been. Like I said, I grew up here. I went to school here. I mean, we have wonderful schools. They're beautiful. It's just like a church, though. The prettiest building in the world means nothing if you don't have the right people.
Absolutely.
And the greatest buildings in the world need strong staff, strong students, strong parent, and strong community. And I'm telling you, have you ever been to our scholarship award ceremony?
I have not.
This community, they step it up. They give hundreds of thousands of dollars in scholarships.
Really?
Yes, when my son was a senior, one of my sons was a senior in high school, his girlfriend was the valedictorian over at Rowlett High. And he went to her award ceremony, and she came to his. Now, he was fortunate. He got the Hawk Scholarship, but he got, others too. And we're a family of community service. That's just one of our rules. That's part of your job as a family, to serve your community. And she was amazed. She couldn't believe the Women's League, the Rotary, the Lions. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars given to these students. It is the highlight of my year.
Wow.
Because you see the cream of the kids, and it's not just your smartest. And you see this community step up for these kids. So our community is the number one.
All right, thank you. What do you see as the biggest challenges facing RISD? Jill?
So currently today, it's rewinding all of the restrictions that have been put in place. Getting our kids back into school full time without any restrictions is what I see as the biggest challenge right now. As a healthcare provider, I would love to lend my expertise and guidance on how to best do that and navigate that. Hopefully we're getting towards herd immunity. I really hope that by the fall, if God willing, we are a little past COVID, and it's really getting our kids back into school and without any restrictions, without a mask, without mandating a vaccine. And it's a little odd right now because about half the kids in the high school are virtual learning and half of them are at school full time. So it's not quite the same experience. It's just a little weird on campus right now. So trying to restore those traditions that have been lost over the last year, that's the biggest challenge right now that I see for Rockwall.
You know, it's interesting. One of the things I didn't think about it. I forgot that you were a registered nurse, and you're actually advocating masks being optional. So I think that's why is that? Because typically what I consider hysteria by the healthcare community is masks. Even though, and yet social distance, and if my question has always been, well, if masks worked, why social distance and all of these other things? So how did you come to your position?
Have you been on a campus recently? Because
I have not.
They're not wearing them properly.
Okay.
They're not. And unless you're wearing an N95 mask, the cloth masks really don't work. Most of the big hospitals make you put on a surgical mask. So that's really the reason why we have a vaccine out too. So if it's available and it's optional for staffers and teachers to get that vaccine, I think we're getting closer to herd immunity. I haven't heard of anyone catching COVID once they've already had COVID. So it's already run through a lot of our population. Unfortunately, we've lost a lot of lives. I don't want to see that happen.
No.
Absolutely.
Of course not.
Gives me goosebumps how many, people that we've lost. I pray for their souls and their families, and it's a very sad thing, but we have vaccines out.
Yeah. Very good. One of the principal duties of the school board is to evaluate, and we talked about, you talked a little bit about evaluating the performance of the superintendent and hold him accountable. How are you doing that? How are you holding him accountable?
There's what I call official evaluations, and then there's just ongoing evaluations. The official evaluation is usually in January or February, and it's a pretty extensive form that we fill out on many areas, all the areas that, like you gave us a list of things that we are trying to promote, everything. Of course, the physical responsibility, our academic improvement, closing the gaps on our kids, just all kinds of stuff. And everybody independently writes an evaluation.
Okay.
And gives sort of a grade.
Each member of the school board.
Each member of the
Interesting.
school board.
Okay.
Independently.
Great.
On our own. And then it's compiled, and we discuss it together without the superintendent there.
And how many people are on the school board?
7.
So it's a long meeting, sounds like.
It's long.
Yeah.
And then we bring the superintendent in and we discuss it with him.
Okay.
But throughout the year, if there's something, and there has been, we talk to the superintendent. He's our guy. We don't go and micromanage. We talk to the superintendent. We tell him exactly how we feel about things. And he generally, that's just sort of what I call mini evaluations all throughout the year.
I see.
Yeah. And because I understand the academics, when all the test scores come in, the AP scores, the IB scores, all that, I go through it with them, and they are more than willing to, because they know I understand this.
Oh, sure.
With a fine-tooth comb.
I see.
On what areas went up, what areas went down, what are we doing about it, things like that.
Wow, that's wonderful. If you're reelected, is there an issue or set of issues that you want to focus on?
Yes, there is. First of all, I want to get this school and our community back to normal. Now, I don't have a lot of control over the pandemic.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of control over what TEA tells us to do or not to do. And but I do think we're on the right track. We're getting there. Last Friday, I think David Sweet told me that 2,700 people were vaccinated, and that was in one of the 4 days they offered it.
Okay.
I mean, can you imagine?
Yeah.
I think we're turning the corner.
Yeah.
And I know I'm vaccinated. My husband and I are both vaccinated, and that's made us feel safer.
Yeah.
And I know that when staff is vaccinated, they'll just feel safer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you don't feel you can do a better job when you don't feel unsafe.
Yeah.
All of us can.
So once everybody feels safe.
Yes, I want us to get, and I feel very confident that at the rate we're going, the school year starts next year, everything will be pretty much back to normal. I'm sure all the cleaning will still be in. We have all the HEPA filters; they'll stay.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff will make us be careful. But I am praying hard every day that we are back to normal. That said,
you and most every parent out there,
of course, and certainly all the staff and the community as a whole.
Sure.
And then the second thing I really want to focus on is filling the gaps that students might have academically from this year. And I've already been in talks with our curriculum department on that. Just not to try to micromanage, but just to offer them my areas of what I see, what I hear from people, and my suggestions. And they take it and run. And and then, of course, the emotional trauma that kids have been through, and staff and community and parents.
Which you've been trained in.
I've been trained in both of those. And that's what I had to say. I just felt like I had to give it another go.
All right. Thank you. Jill?
I would like to see there be the junior reserves put on campus. So the JROTC. I know that they've approached the superintendent a couple of years and it's been denied. And from what information I have, it's about a $150,000 program to start up. I think we have enough cash on hand to implement that program from what I've seen. I would also like to see more trades in the school. I know we have some at the Gene Burton Center. They have started a good program over there, but there's always room for improvement. So just want to have these kids exposed to more options other than go to college and figure it out. So I think it's important that we turn out citizens that are ready to pivot to the global market. There's a lot of chaos going on in our world right now.
Oh, that's true.
I think it's important that they're armed with civics. I don't know what happened to being a great libertarian and knowing your history and loving America. I don't think it's a bad thing to know the Constitution and be a law-abiding citizen. And so that's where I think that we could maybe improve on.
Very good. Obviously, the COVID pandemic has had a dramatic and ongoing impact on education. From your perspective, what has been both the downside and upside of this crisis to education? And what do you believe is the biggest long-term impact to Rockwall schools? Jill?
So I think that they were forced into figuring out an online program. I wish they would have had more time to implement that, maybe training a year or two, but they didn't know. They didn't know that in advance. But I think that that's helpful. I'm glad that they have that option available to students. I think it needs to be a little bit more restrictive on who's using that program. If you're failing, maybe not such a good idea to be on that program. Just little things like that. So I think that that's been a good thing that has come about over this COVID situation.
Sure.
Going to school and having a schedule and being socialized with others and having that taken away from you for a year, and then you snap your fingers and you think that they're just going to fall back in line. I think that we're in for a struggle here, and these kids are they have fallen behind. They're going to need some remediation. And what that looks like, I'm not really sure, but I'm afraid to say that we're going to need some summer school, maybe some extra days added into the year to catch these kids up.
You're going to lose a lot of students' votes. I'm just warning you right here.
I'm telling you.
Since they can't vote, it's okay.
I've heard from parents a lot, and they're like, how many more days do we get off this year?
Yes.
So, we had the big ice storm,
right,
and that was a week. Then we had off that Monday after spring break. Spring break was a couple of weeks after the ice storm, and now there's SATs and different tests going on in the school. And so depending on what grade level you're at, you get virtual. So we've had a lot of time off. It's important for kids to have a schedule and know that they have a schedule and be accountable Monday through Friday from 8:45 to 3:45 or 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock if you're in elementary school.
Sure.
So kids need that. They need a schedule that they can count on.
Very good. Linda?
Well, I think the biggest downside has been the abrupt disruption of the educational process last year and this year. And how hard it is when something is so new. And then we're fixing to start school. So everybody, how do we make it safe?
By the way, I just want to stop you right there
Okay.
for a second, because it is so heartening to hear someone as well-educated, Phi Beta Kappa, 4.0 grade pepper, just say fixing to. So that is a good thing. I'm glad that we're on this. I actually think I can relate to you now. Okay.
Well, I grew up in Rockwall.
Okay.
What does that tell you? We're fixing to.
We are fixing to. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just
That
thought it
was
was a
too
good
good.
point to make. But all right,
Y'all
so
too?
so keep moving on to
Okay.
your point. I apologize.
So that it was so new. It was so unknown. And so making decisions that can have life and death consequences, this has been the hardest year of my life. But in any case, so we've got to fill in the gaps, academic gaps, and then we got to work on the emotional stuff. And the thing is I don't know if you've ever had a big grief issue in your life.
Oh, of course.
Most of us have.
Sure.
It doesn't always hit everybody at the same time. It might come later. It might come a year later. It might come 6 months later. And the strangest thing, something might happen and you think, well, I've got this under control, and then your dog passes away and it brings everything back up again.
Yeah.
So we've already done some training with our teachers, but we've got to do more to help them see the signs, and our counselors get them trained, help them see the signs, and help these kids through these tough times.
You know, it does seem one of the common themes of every candidate who's talked about the school issue is that this has had such a hard thing, that there is a gap.
There's a gap.
What do you think as an educator how do you overcome that gap?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of ways.
Okay.
There's a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Some kids have gaps and others don't. And it's going to affect our kids that were already lower. And so you go to the mountain. You go to them. And we're going to reach out to them. We're going to offer them summer programs. We're going to offer them remedial programs. We're going to offer them tutoring programs. It's through the summer and then the next year. A lot of kids thrive on this computer learning.
Yeah.
They thrive on it. Now, there's a lot that struggle, and I get that. But a lot thrive.
Do you
They go fast and far and reach out.
Do you think the majority do, or do we know?
I'm not really
do we know
sure
yet?
I'm not really
okay,
sure.
it's too early to say.
It's just like it's going to change medicine. There's going to be more teledocs and all that.
That's
I
true.
think it's going to change some education. We might have more opportunities for kids to do catch-up on computers. To
Well, that's
do
a good point.
Acceleration on computers. To enrichment.
What do you think the long-term effects are for RISD schools?
Well, we're going to have to be, it's taught us to be flexible, to think on our feet, to adapt when you have to still meet the needs of kids and keep people safe. So that can be a very good thing.
All right. Neighboring Garland Independent School District allows parents to choose which school their child attends. How would you feel about giving that right to RISD parents? Jill?
Well, I grew up in the Garland School District.
Yes, you did.
So we had choice of schools.
Was it good?
One neighbor would go to South Garland. I would go to Lakeview. There are pros and cons to it. You do find yourself networking with all of Garland people. I mean, those are my people, are from Garland. So in that aspect, it's nice, but there's also some great things about having your core school with your core zoned group and your core neighborhoods. So I see some pros and cons to that. There's also some logistical things that you really need to think about. So how are you going to get a student from, one end of Heath or McClendon Chisholm or even Fate to the opposite end of the school district? Are you going to bus them there? Are you going to expect the parents to get them there to school on time? That puts a toll on the student. That travel time, which this is a big, large area, from one end of this city to the next it could take you 30 minutes plus, and you're not even talking about traffic time. So that takes a toll on the student.
So would you support it or not?
I would probably need some feedback on that one from the parents.
Okay.
I would like to know what the parents think about that.
All right. What about you, Linda?
I taught at Garland High School.
You did? Okay.
For a couple of years. And I like that system. Now, they're a much bigger school district than we are. So they're bigger, and they have a different population, very different socioeconomic population. And what they have done is they have little magnets. And Dallas has kind of gone into this, and a lot of school systems have, especially in your big cities. So they have enough schools that they can have a science kind of magnet and this kind of magnet and that kind of magnet. It's kind of hard with just two schools.
Yes.
High schools.
Yes.
And they also have school choice for elementary. They don't have a lot that use that because of transportation, because you're on your own in transportation. Now, our people could do that. And I like that if you have the space. You probably know we're a fast growth district.
Yes.
And so space, especially in some schools, have been a problem. Parents can already ask for a transfer for a reason to a school that's not overcrowded.
Okay.
And eventually, when we get maybe 4 high schools, 2 on each side, maybe we could do something like that. And I like that concept. It gives people choice and all that. Now, what you get is you get all the good football players wanting to go to Garland High.
Okay.
You get all the good basketball players wanting to go to South Garland.
Gotcha.
Now, I know that.
Okay.
And so you kind of have to be careful, but hey, if that's the only problem, then that's good.
Well, the next question is about gun-free zones.
Okay.
Churches have been removed as a designated gun-free zone in Texas. And last June, delegates to the Rockwall County Republican Convention unanimously adopted my platform plank opposing them, specifically the Federal Gun-Free Zones Act of 1990, which prohibits law-abiding citizens from carrying guns on public school property. This platform position was adopted by delegates of the Texas Republican Party and is now part of both the state and national party platforms. If Republicans are successful in repealing the act, would you support the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens to lawfully carry a firearm on public school property? Why or why not?
I'm conflicted on this one.
Okay.
And first of all, it's a lot of ifs. We don't know what's going to be passed, and bills change as they go through the process,
Sure.
as you well know. So all
But
that's
if it was passed like the churches, that are no longer gun-free zones.
Yeah, and I understand why, because of some of the violence that's been perpetrated on schools and in churches. And they probably don't have the funds to constantly have we have school resource officers, because we already have people on our campuses with guns, our officers.
How many per school?
Probably 2 at each high school, and 1 at the middle schools, and then some of the elementary schools I think they share.
Yeah.
I would love to see at least 1. I love the school resource officers for a couple of reasons. First of all, the kids love them, and they get a good feel toward police officers.
Yes.
I like that.
Sure.
But and then we have different security people that don't have guns, but they're security, and they check, that door was open, it shouldn't be, and stuff like that. A lot of volunteers from dads and granddads do that kind of thing, and it's wonderful. And they even volunteer for schools where the dads and granddads can't do it because they're working 2 jobs. So I love that. So in schools, what worries me is the unpredictability of kids. I mean, it's hard enough to keep up with your pencils. So there'd have to be some real strict protocols in.
Well, we're talking about,
You're talking about somebody visiting a school?
I'm talking about a parent.
Yes.
Kids. We're not talking about children carrying guns. We're talking about parents.
But
and
kids get them.
And
kids get stuff.
Yeah, they get them now, don't they?
Stuff. Huh?
They get them now, don't they?
Yeah, you sure do.
Yeah.
I know. I am conflicted about that. I would really have to talk to our police officers, see what they think, and see what all the parents groups think, and because it makes me nervous.
Yeah. What makes you nervous?
Well, like I have a friend, and he carries his gun everywhere, and he doesn't make me nervous.
Yeah.
Because I know him and I trust him. But some people, I don't know. I don't know if I can trust them all. And I know they've got. And my husband said that this training is great.
Yeah.
Because it really tells you.
Some are better than others, no
Plus,
question.
His was great.
Yeah. But currently, I mean, you go into a restaurant, you have no idea who is carrying and who's not. You don't know whether you can.
Right. That's exactly right.
But at least
I see that point.
Yeah.
I don't know what the protocols will be from the state of Texas. That may say that they have to, upon entering, announce it. And they may, I don't know what. I mean, it's a very iffy issue right now.
This is obviously an important issue to a lot of people.
And to you, I can tell it is.
Well, it absolutely is, and because I look at schools as being soft targets.
Yes,
and
I know. That's something to consider. It really is.
And when we took it off of churches, because churches used to have the same, we've saved a lot of people's lives because parishioners have been armed and they've been able to stop people who want to do bad things.
That's a very, very valid point. I mean, I've been around high school kids. I know what they're like.
Sure. Yeah, and I wouldn't support the high school kids carrying them.
Not having them.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things they've gotten into that they weren't supposed to have.
Right, I agree. The fact that if a high school kid is carrying a gun right now, they're breaking the law.
That's right.
So if they do it, even if they do it with a gun-free zone, if that law is repealed,
right.
They'll still be breaking the law.
That's right. That would probably be the case.
Yeah.
But I do understand that concern.
Yeah.
There's some legitimate concern on that, and we've had some issues throughout the country where it might have saved lives.
All right. Jill, what about you? Gun-free zones? What do you think?
Well, that's a very tough question, but, after giving it some thought, I would still want some parent feedback, but it seems like since 1990, that's a soft spot, and we've had some mass shootings in schools.
You mean a soft target?
A soft target.
Yeah.
So it appears to me that it appears to me that if you're a law-abiding citizen and you have a concealed gun, it should be okay for that law-abiding citizen to pick their child up from school, or go meet with the principal, or go eat lunch with their son or daughter. I know that Rockwall has done a really good job over the last 20 years securing our schools. When Grant started school in 2001, it was pretty wide open.
Huh.
You could go in any door, you could just walk right through the front door. Over the years, probably started around 2010 when my daughter went back to school, or started school, it was different. You had to walk in, you were farmed through the office, you had to check in, you had to give them your driver's license, you had to have a sticker. Since then, they've made some more improvements to where, they have to have a ID badge when they're walking around campus so that they can be identified. So I do commend Rockwall on making our schools safer. I really feel like they've done a good job. As far as a law-abiding citizen and concealed gun carry, I'd have to say yes for right now, but I would like some parent feedback on that too.
Very good. RISD posts 9 outcomes that they hold as a goal for every graduate. If you were forced to choose just one and only one outcome from the list that best reflects your hope that every student might take away, which would it be and why? Jill?
So,
do you know the list?
Well, it was the first one. It was all students will be college and or career ready by the time they graduate. And if you have that in place, then you already are critically thinking. So I like to combine both of them. But
you're cheating, but that's okay.
Yes,
that's allowed. That's allowed. You picked one, so that's good.
If you've been prepared for college and you've gotten into college, you can't just do that without critically thinking. And you can't be prepared for a career after high school unless you've really critically thought through that process. So that would be my main goal. Priority for sure.
Very good. Very good. Linda, how about you?
All right. So you said if I were forced. That's conditional.
No, I'm forcing
That's the
you.
Conditional use of the verb, and I'm impressed that you actually said if you were, but you were. If I were, the conditional sense of the verb.
Yeah.
If I were forced.
Yes, if you were forced.
I'm leaning toward demonstrate resiliency to navigate adversity, especially after the year we've been through.
Boy, yeah.
And educational challenges. So that's my number one. Because if you can do that, then you can be college and career ready. If you can do that, then you can think critically. The others follow kind of from that. So that's the one I would choose if I were forced.
If you were forced. Yeah, good. I'm glad that I didn't force you to do that. Thank you very much. Good job. Well, this is an opportunity. Both candidates have had a chance to answer these questions and very, very forthcoming. And I hope that you've learned something. But more than anything, I think it's an opportunity now for each candidate to explain to you why they are the best person for earning your trust and your vote. So I'm just going to hand that over to each candidate and give them the opportunity to explain that. And Linda, why don't you start?
Okay. I'm a hometown girl. I grew up here. I brought my children up here. And I have a love and a commitment and a passion for this community that is not easy to exceed by anyone. I love this community, and I love education and children. It's my passion. It's my calling. It's my vocation and avocation. It's all of that. And I have strengths that I can keep using to help make our district better. I have expertise in academic remediation and expertise in trauma, loss, and resiliency, both of which are very important. And I'd like to add one more thing. I was raised, and I am, a strong Christian woman. I have very traditional values. Anyone who says otherwise is full of baloney. And this is what I'm going to tell you what I believe we should do. I think we should teach academics. I'm pretty much a reading, writing, arithmetic kind of girl. And you add social studies and science in with that. And yes, I love the arts and the sports because they actually help students do better academically. And there's a lot of research to back that up. And I don't think we should teach religions. We should teach about religions. And we do that in history, and there's a course, an AP course called World Religions. But we don't teach a religion. That belongs in the home. And same with politics. We should teach about politics, but not a political point of view. That belongs in the home. These belong in the home and the church. And lifestyles and culture issues belong at home. Now, that being said, those issues should be taught at home. That being said, I would not tolerate bullying, discrimination against people for any reason. But there's some things that an academic institution should do, and there's some things that the home should do. And an academic institution should work on academics. And I will work very hard for you. Nobody's going to work harder than me. Many of you know that. Many of you know how I was raised. I'm a worker, I'm smart, and I will do the job. And I would appreciate your vote.
All right. Thank you. Jill?
Well, I love Rockwall. I've been here for 20 years. I want to serve this community and do what's right for the school district. If I were to vote on anything, I would always think of what was right for the school. I would always listen to the parents. I want survey and feedback from the parents. I think it's important that we hold our superintendent accountable and set up some goals for him or her. And I would appreciate your vote and your support. You can find me online at jill4risd.com. There's a link there to my email, and you can send me a message. I'll be happy to answer any questions, meet you in person. Don't forget, voting is May 1st. Early voting starts April 19th. And if you have any questions, reach out to me. Thank you so much.
Well, as you can see, both of these candidates truly desire to earn your vote. If you have more questions of them or wish to know more about their campaigns, I posted links to their websites in the description of today's show. Now, it's important to remember turnout for local elections like these is typically abysmal, which means that a small percentage of the population in Rockwall County will decide this race, and is why your vote is so important in these local elections. I know you're watching this because you want to be an informed voter, so be sure to share the link to this program with your friends and neighbors who can vote in Rockwall County. Don't forget that Election Day is Saturday, May 1st, and early voting begins on Monday, April 19th through Tuesday, April 27th. So until next time, I'm Bunker Bob Steinhagen, looking forward to seeing you at the polls. Blessings.